Hey guys, PC Outcast here. Bethesda's been in the news a lot lately with the purchase by Microsoft. I believe it's now got final approval in both the US and EU, so that looks like that is definitely going ahead. So there's also been a lot of supposed leaks, if you can believe them, and lots of rumors that we're going to get some big announcement about Starfield in the summer, maybe a release announcement. That would actually play in pretty well to the way Bethesda has handled things for a long time. They would give a little teaser about what they're working on, and then a few years later, boom, it's coming out, right? Coming out with, usually when they make a big announcement, it's coming out within 6 months to a year. I think it was a year or so for Skyrim. I know it was only about 5 months, I think, for Fallout 4. And not sure, but Fallout 76. But yeah, so anyway, with all that in mind, those of us who are fans of the Elder Scrolls series are, of course, naturally looking towards the next game after Starfield, and we're hoping that that's going to be Elder Scrolls 6. So since it's been a long time since I talked about Elder Scrolls 6, and actually quite a few people have asked me to, voice my thoughts and so forth on what I think the direction I think the series is going and what the game might include, I thought I would cover 6 things that I think are highly likely for us to see changes as far as the next Elder Scrolls game is concerned. All right, so the first thing that I think is very likely for us to see is the elimination of the alteration school. Now hear me out. First of all, the school's been completely gutted, and so they had to actually move light and paralysis over from illusion just to kind of fill alteration out a little bit. In the last iteration between Oblivion and Skyrim, they of course removed mysticism, and alteration gained some of mysticism's spells, and as I just said, got a couple of spells from illusion. I think that alteration is the least fleshed out of the schools, and I mean, honestly, if you're going to have an RPG, you have to have fire slinging. You have to have a way for people to heal themselves. So destruction and restoration should be totally fine, totally safe. Conjuration, of course, lots of people like to play necromancers, so I don't see them getting rid of that. And illusion, lots of people like the mind manipulation aspect of illusion, so I don't see them getting rid of that. So those 4 schools, I think, are pretty much fine. Alteration, on the other hand, it's got weak flesh spells, so weak that a lot of people just don't even use them. They end up just, even if they're pure mages, they end up wearing armor. You've got like water breathing and transmute. Telekinesis was not properly developed in Skyrim, in my opinion. And then, like I said, both paralysis and light spells used to be an illusion anyway. So all of those could just be moved over. Same thing with like things like detect life and detect dead. I mean, that stuff can all be easily justified in illusion. So I think, since Bethesda's design concept or design philosophy is simplification of the Elder Scrolls series, like making it more and more accessible to a more casual audience rather than making it a deeper RPG experience, I think that alteration is most likely going to be on the chopping block for Elder Scrolls 6. The second thing that I think is very likely for us to see in Elder Scrolls 6 is a voiced protagonist. Now, of course, this is based largely on Fallout 4. They experimented with that, but a lot of RPGs are adding voiced protagonists. Now, some do it in a way that still maintains the ability to play a variety of characters. Like they'll have maybe not every single line voiced, so it has to be voiced multiple times in different styles and stuff. So what they'll do instead is have, little bits and pieces, so you can choose maybe between 6 different voices or something like that. Kind of like like a Divinity Original Sin type of thing. So you have, at least you have, you know, sort of the upbeat voice and the overbearing voice and the angry voice and the snarky voice and, you know, whatever. So you can sort of tailor your character's voice to the character you're trying to build. The problem with that is, like, many of us have a voice in our minds of our character, and when you're playing a game specifically for the character building, often a voice protagonist gets in the way of that. So that is going to be dicey. It depends on how much effort they put into giving us a variety. I doubt that Bethesda would give us a huge amount of variety, maybe a little bit, but I think it'll most likely lean towards the Fallout 4 thing. So there'll only be like basically one voice, basically one for your female characters and one for your male characters, and that's it. Number 3, and this is tied directly into the voiced protagonist, is reduced dialogue options, which of course also hurts the ability to play multiple characters. Naturally, if you're going to voice the protagonist, you need to limit the amount of dialogue that you have to record. Otherwise, it takes up a lot of space, costs a lot of money to hire voice actors. So what we ended up having with Fallout 4 is basically when you were talking to an NPC about taking on a quest, you had the yes, I'll do it right away option, yes, I'll do it later option, or I'm really sarcastic and saying no, but really I mean yes. So you couldn't really say no. You could sort of drop out of the conversation and say no in that way, but you couldn't really say no. So that again is going to majorly limit our ability to create our own characters with their own story, their own motivations. It's going to really cut into that, unfortunately. And I think that those two things, both the voice protagonist leading into reduced dialogue options, is very, very likely to be in the next Elder Scrolls game. Number 4, and I promise this is the last negative one. I know we've been kind of covering all the things that are not great or potentially not great. The last one is the biggest and the most dangerous and the most decisive, the most divisive. I'm sure a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but I think that Bethesda's been looking at the modding scene of Skyrim for the last 10 years and trying desperately to figure out how they can monetize that. They tried selling mods on Steam, didn't work out. They've done the Creation Club, which has been fairly successful. Not done as well as we would hope, but it's been reasonably successful. And the same thing has been transferred over to Fallout 76. I'm not sure if they do it in Fallout, if they created a Creation Club thing for Fallout 4. I haven't been keeping up with that. But paid mods and paid only mods. I think that Bethesda will be very hesitant to provide modding tools to create free mods. So I think Skyrim's probably going to be the last one that will have that. I know a lot of you are going to say, no, that'll destroy it. Has the Creation Club actually destroyed modding? A lot of people only download mods from the Creation Club, I hate to say it. A lot of people don't support the other free modding sites. So I think that's very, very likely that we will not be getting free mods. Now, it's possible they might not interfere with fans making mods and releasing them for free on a site like Nexus or whatever. But I don't think that they'll be as accommodating to the modding community as they have been in games up to this point. All right, number 5, and we're starting to move into positive territory here. I know we only have 2 more, but there you go. This one is sort of a double-edged, not really a double-edged sword, but it's something that some people will like and some people will not like or just not really care about. And that is building. I think there'll be extensive building options. I mean, we had a little bit of building in Skyrim. We had lots of settlement building in Fallout 4. I believe there's settlement building in Fallout 76 as well. I think, and like, there are just so many popular building games. I mean, Fortnite, Valheim, there's Minecraft, for heaven's sake. There's so much building in open world games now that I think it would be ridiculous if Bethesda did not include a huge building option. For me personally, I'm more interested in character building and the character's story than building settlements and houses. It is cool to be able to build stuff, and for some characters that would make sense. But if I wanted to actually play a building game, I would go and play, a building game, basically. I mean, I wouldn't play an RPG that has building in it as well. Now, I'm sure that a lot of you will say that you'd love to see building, and you enjoyed the building in the settlement building in Fallout 4 and so on, and that's fine. And it certainly appeals to a huge number of people. My only concern, as someone who is kind of like, well, whatever, is if they focus on that to the detriment of character building. So if they're like, okay, we'll just give you whatever character and you can build this massive city, isn't that great? That will obviously hurt what I play Elder Scrolls games for. Just having the building options in there, in addition to a good story and deep factions that I can join as a character, that's fine. I don't mind if the settlement building stuff is in there. It's not the main reason that I'd be playing the game. So, like I said, could be a good or a bad depending on what your taste is, and we'll just have to see. But I think it's basically a foregone conclusion that there is going to be extensive building options. Finally, number 6, and this is definitely a positive, and it's absolutely the direction that the whole industry is going, and that is no loading screens. I'm sure that Bethesda will make a huge effort to eliminate loading screens as much as possible. I know it's kind of a minor thing. It is really jarring. I find Fallout 4 like fairly jarring for the amount of loading screens in it. Skyrim, I don't notice it as much, although it's basically the same. But yeah, I think because of the standard that Witcher 3 set and the direction that pretty much the entire industry is going, and thanks to the speed of like SSD drives being in consoles and everything, that is going to probably be a big push, and that's definitely a positive thing. That I have no problem. Less loading screens, the better. But yeah, I think that is probably the biggest plus that we can expect to see in Elder Scrolls 6. Now, as a final wrap up to the whole discussion of these 6 things that I think that we will see changed in Elder Scrolls 6, I do have to blanket a huge caveat over all of this, and that is that there's been 2 major changes to the leadership of Bethesda and its parent company. Number 1, we have Microsoft buying out ZeniMax Media. So up to this point, Microsoft, in my experience, Microsoft has been pretty good about buying out developers. They seem to buy developers that they like and not be too heavy-handed in, what changes that they want those developers to make. There doesn't seem to be a lot in the way of, trying to get them to do microtransactions and gambling and stuff like EA and Blizzard and stuff do. So that's good. I mean, they seem to be pretty good about that. So that, I think, will have a positive effect on Bethesda. It seems pretty obvious over the behavior of the last few years is that ZeniMax as a whole, Bethesda in particular, have been focusing on maximizing short-term profits at the expense of long-term goodwill with their viewers or their fans. You know, there's been a lot of controversial decisions that presumably gave them like a boost to their short-term balance sheet, and I assume that was because they wanted to look appealing to a possible purchaser. Hopefully now that that's done, they can focus more on creating good products and not trying to show off, basically like, look, we made $100 million last month. Yeah, it cost us 1 million of our fans, but hey. So that's one major change. The other one is that Robert Altman, the former CEO of ZeniMax Media and co-founder, just died last month. So that's another huge change to the management, and we don't know what kind of effect. That probably will have no effect on any of the development this year, or like anything with games right now, but it will have, having a new CEO will have a change to the future. Obviously, I most likely won't change something like Starfield, because that seems to be fairly close to getting to release. But Elder Scrolls 6 is still presumably a few years, at least a few years away. So new top dog, I guess, of ZeniMax, which is now going to be a division of Microsoft, probably will have an effect on Elder Scrolls 6. We don't really know. It remains to be seen what effect that will have. Can't really say that Robert was a negative influence or a positive influence. It's kind of hard to say. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's the co-founder, so he's seen the company through all the good years and the recent bad years. So he was most likely just focused on trying to get his company sold over the last say 5 years or so. So that change, it just kind of remains to be seen what kind of effect that has on future games. So those are my thoughts about the changes that I expect to see Elder Scrolls 6 make to the Elder Scrolls series. Please share your thoughts in the comments. No problem if you disagree with everything I've said. That's totally fine. And please, rip me apart in that. If you agree, great. Let me know why you agree with any of these points. And also share what your hopes and expectations are. Thank you very much, guys. We'll talk to you later.